Welcome to PCMC Pop Culture Man Children. Don't let the title fool you. We're not in that Joe Rogan-y. I feel like I'm afraid that people hear the title and they'd be like, oh, that sounds Joe Rogan-y. Like, yeah,
Really?
man. Yeah, like the Man Show. They were like, oh, the Man
Oh
Show.
yeah.
It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah, we're not Spike TV in 2003
Yeah, that's not
anymore.
our vibe. I'm here
That
with,
could be a whole episode. Have you done that topic yet? Spike
no,
TV's rebrand to
I have
Channel
not.
for Men.
No,
We got cartoons for men like Stripperella and Gary the Rat.
oh, wow. Yeah. I'm Mike Bongiorno. I'm joined today by Mr. Vin Forte. Vin, how are you?
I am good,
Did you watch a
especially
lot of
after
Spike
watching this.
TV?
Did I watch a lot of Spike TV? I watched it for they had the WWE at the time. They had Raw, but outside of that, like basically that, and they would have like movie marathons every once in a while. Like they would do like a James Bond marathon or something like that. But other than like syndicated stuff like movies, like not really. Because again, the rebrand, it was just a lot of trying too hard, bro.
Did they have
Trying
that?
too hard.
Did they have that show that was a like a Japanese game show that they dubbed in English and like made it really stupid with the dub?
You're talking about Most Extreme Elimination Show.
Yes, was that Spike?
It may have been.
That's when I think Spike, I think of that.
That show I like. That show I actually did like. That's just they took footage from a Japanese game show called Takeshi's Castle and basically just,
Yes.
had American dubbing.
Yeah, and they made it ridiculous. I remember. I actually loved that show. I was this on Spike TV.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
all right,
aired on TNN/Spike TV from 2003 to 2007.
nice. Okay, wow, nice run. Okay, so today we are talking about the 2002 film Star Trek Nemesis.
Yeah, this is the one. This is the last of the original films before we get to the J.J. Abrams
Right.
reboots. This
Yeah.
is one that everyone has like very mixed opinions on because at the time, what was pretty unanimous is that people were just worn out from Star Trek. This movie did not do good at the box office,
Mm-mm.
was not well received at the time,
No.
was seen as being like too dark for what I guess most
Mm,
people would have wanted.
interesting.
Um, and then, yeah, it was just like at that time, Star Trek had been on the air without missing like uninterrupted, basically, in some form or fashion since 1987.
And also, if you the this is the fourth movie with the Next Generation cast, and if you consider that part of the original film series that was the cast of the original show, and then Generations handed it off to the Next Gen cast. If you consider it that, then it's a film series that's been going since what, like 79, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, this would have been, I guess, like the 10th film.
Yeah, something like that. And we should say, we started this journey because Vin is a Trekkie and a Trekker and a Star Trek fan and has seen a lot of it. And it was always a franchise that I had like a toe dipped in. I had seen some of the movies and I always liked it, but I had never seen the original series. So I watched the original series and we recorded that as a show. And then we started doing the movies. And I have not watched Next Generation yet. But we decided to just keep going with the movies. And I guess next we'll do the J.J. Abrams movies. But this is actually I believe this is the longest running series in pop culture man children history because we've done
Yeah.
every one of these. We just keep going with these movies. I don't think
Mhm.
there's any other, and it's interesting because I think in the pop culture man children averse, I feel like there are other properties that are more core to our hearts or to the heart of the show, like some of the things that are in the logo, like Ninja Turtles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yet we've done every one of these, and so I'm sort of newish to this, and this is completely new territory for me. I've not seen Nemesis before I watched it this week. I watched it twice before recording.
Yeah, so
Um,
basically the primer on Nemesis is that in hindsight now, because again, I just said what the vibe of it was at the time. In hindsight, it has mixed reviews because a lot of people, myself included, have kind of like warm to it, where like if you see it just in a vacuum outside of the context of, people were kind of just fed up with Star Trek at that
Hmm.
time. It's not a bad idea. There's good stuff in it, but it is a flawed movie. Like there are some things in it where it's like they could have done this differently. Maybe they need a different director to to edit some things down. Um, but overall, like my take on it is I'm firmly in the camp of like I would give it a good critic, like a reappraisal.
Okay, okay. Well, so I watching it for the first time, I did not like it, but I agree that there's things in it that are interesting. I think in general, it's much better than the last one.
Yes,
Insurrection. I
if
think,
this had come out, a lot of the people, myself included, who give it the more positive critical reappraisal, like to point out, and I think this is true. This is the movie that if it had come out instead of Insurrection at the time, would
mm-hmm.
have been more favorably
Yes.
received, because Insurrection was just like a total tonal shift into like, just you could go back and listen to our thoughts on Insurrection, but it was
Yeah.
just like almost like a complete opposite of what you got with First Contact, and this is more in line with like, oh, if you had gone from First Contact right to this,
Yeah.
it probably would have been better received.
Yeah, if you listen to our episode on Insurrection, I was talking about how it looks so ugly, it looks so cheap, it looks so mad TV that I thought it was a smaller budget, and I was shocked to find out it was a larger budget. This movie uh actually I think looks really good. For
Yeah,
2002, its effects hold up, I think, really well. A lot of the space effects and the ships and the planets all look really good. The beginning, you see the establishing shot of Romulus, and it looks really good. I was like, wow, this looks real. It looks good for 2002, but even more than that, it looks good now. Like if you saw it now, you'd be like, that's acceptable, you know? But it definitely looks good for 2002, but it definitely looks better than the previous movie. I don't know how they fucked up that previous movie.
yeah,
Um, but it looks really good. My thing with this movie is I feel like there's a lot of interesting ideas here. Um, but they don't ferment and grow into anything. Like what we have here isn't a stew. We have hot water with vegetables and bouillon cubes and
yeah.
chunks of meat in it. It's not a stew, but it's that stuff in water, basically. Like there's stuff in it that's like I can see where you would get to something better, but you don't ever get there. Does that
Yeah, I
make
can see
sense to
that.
you?
Yeah, because again, like there's good. I think this movie just needed a better director and a different, maybe a better edit.
Well, let's talk about this director. This director's name is Stuart Baird, and he was not a Star Trek fan. And if the trivia on IMDb is to be believed, he did not get along with some of the cast. He really didn't care about the movie very much. Um,
Yeah, and normally like we wouldn't, like I wouldn't care about that kind of thing of like, oh, he didn't see the, he's not a Star Trek fan, because Nicholas Myers wasn't a Star Trek fan, and
right,
he made some of the best movies. But I think the
right.
difference is Nicholas Myers wasn't a fan and took the time to like rewatch everything and discover like, okay, this is what makes these characters tick from like an outsider perspective. Whereas Stuart Baird, it seems like, just kind of didn't even like read the notes.
No,
Like
he
apparently
seemed
he
to
called
not
like,
give a shit. He
yeah, like
like yeah.
apparently he kept calling like Jordy the wrong name.
Well, he was like, this Geordie, he's an alien, right? And they're like, no, the character's not an alien.
Yeah, so it seems like he didn't even like do his fucking homework.
Yeah, and you get that feeling, I think, watching it, that it doesn't feel very Star Trekky, actually. I'm looking
Yeah.
at his filmography. He's mostly an editor. He edited Superman, the original Superman, and the original Omen.
Yeah,
Um,
no, he's not a bad director. It's just I don't think this was the project for him.
Well, he only directed three movies: Nemesis, U.S. Marshals, which was the sequel to The Fugitive, which I think is a good movie, and Executive Decision, which I've never seen. Yeah, he's mostly an editor, in his career, and seemed to edit a lot of interesting, good movies. Um, yeah, it's a the vibes are off. It doesn't, like you're coming into like a huge like I agree. Like I don't like when nerds are like, oh, this beautiful young actress is in this genre movie that I love, and she doesn't know everything that I know, and I hate her. You know what I mean? Like I hate shit like that.
Yeah.
But this is the director of whatever the 10th or 11th or whatever the fuck movie this is in this franchise that has established an aesthetic.
Right. Again, like do the homework.
Right. It does it feels off. It doesn't feel, and like I said, some of it's very banal to me. Like I'm kind of watching it and going like, okay, I don't think this is good or bad. It's just sort of here. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I'm it's yeah. Who wrote this movie? I
No,
wonder.
Brett Spiner had a big hand in it, which boy does it show.
Brett Spiner's story, Rick Berman's story, John Logan's story, and screenplay. Yeah, Brett Spiner who plays Data. So this is a very data heavy movie.
Which normally I guess would be fine, but I don't like you could do a story that incorporates Data finding something out about himself,
Yeah.
but to literally have him find a second Data that we didn't know about until now, and that is basically their excuse to, spoiler alert, kill off Data at the end.
Yeah.
It takes the weight away from them killing Data.
Right. Because he finds this other prototype of Data whose name is B4. And it's very convoluted how there's a lot of missing narrative pieces in this. I've heard if IMDb is to be believed, there was a lot of editing going on here and a lot of
That's what I'm saying. Like I think there's a version of this movie that could have worked a little better
yeah.
because on paper I see what they were trying to do, sort of having the B plot of Data and his brother mirror the Picard Shinzon stuff.
Right, but it doesn't totally.
No, it doesn't. It as is, it doesn't really connect. The Data plot just kind of seems like oddly thrown in.
Right. There seems to be some theme about nature versus nurture, but they don't ever seem to land on how they feel about that theme or that question of nature versus nurture. Um, and you're right. Like, so this was meant to be the last of the next gen movies, right? Because you have Riker leaving to go be the captain on
The Titan.
the Titan, right? And you have Riker and Troy getting married. Um, and um you have Data dying or sacrificing himself and dying. But it's nothing like say Spock's death, right?
Right.
Because and then again he came back too. But you kind of like it kind of just feels like, oh, that's one of the things they want to happen in this movie. Like it like more than like he seems to want to die because at one point he's like, Captain, you could get off the ship and I'll stay here. And he's like, no, we'll find a way for us both to get off. And then they both do get off. And then later on, he finds another way. It's like it's very weird. It's like he seems it seems like they were insistent on somebody has to die. And I think again, you said Brett Spiner was part of the story process. It feels like it would have been more impactful if had it been Riker or Troy or anyone else really. I
Right.
mean,
Like
honestly.
imagine they kill like Troy or Riker off after doing a wedding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that would have been more impactful. Or they could have just not killed anyone off. Like
Right. I don't think anyone needs to die.
because
But
here's the thing, I don't know if you know, and again, this is legitimate spoiler alert for something more recent with Picard season 3, where
mhm.
they, for people who don't know, Picard season 3 was basically like another next gen movie as like a mini series. Like the real final story for these guys.
Uh-huh.
They bring back Data. Like Data comes back.
How?
They they basically like they steal him back from the fucking the like robotics institute. They steal his body back and they basically like re-upload his program, and he basically becomes like closer to being human than he. Long story short, they steal his body and they re-upload Data into his body. And now he's back.
Right, which is part of why I think the narrative stakes of an android dying is not won't be as deep as someone else dying because it's always possible to to keep their memory. It's always possible to just upload them somewhere. I mean, what this movie seems to do, as you were saying before, is he finds this prototype version of him and he tries to give it his memories and it doesn't sort of take. And the prototype is doesn't have any of his memories and is like way more naive than Data and played way more wide-eyed. But in the beginning of the film, at Riker's wedding, Data sings Blue Skies. And at the end, after Data's dead, you have Captain Picard talking to the other android B4, and he starts like humming Blue Skies, which seems to imply that the memories are kicking in, and therefore he just is Data now.
Yeah.
So what I wonder why they even did that, because if they wanted this to be the end, why even set up another Data?
I guess to like have their cake and eat it too, where it's like, oh, see, we did a big thing. We killed off one of your favorite characters. But if we wanted to make another movie, we could figure out how to get him back.
Right, right. So let's talk about the plot of this movie and the antagonist Shinzon. So this is a movie where it begins on Romulus and we see we're told that there is on one of I guess one of the moons or one of the planets in the Romulan Empire, they have these mines and they've enslaved these people called Remans to
Basically
mine.
subservient to.
Yeah, they're subservient. They mine for the Romulan Empire, and they have some leader named Shinzon who's trying to um I guess broker a deal with the Romulans. And but the main the sort of mainstream mainstream Romulans don't want to work with them. So one of the Romulans, this female who um is on their side, she like opens up this like little like compact thing and walks out of the like Senate room. And then this green light comes up and it sort of shoots up into the ceiling, and then like this sort of like green dust settles all over everything. And then everybody like turns to stone and dies. And it's pretty good looking. And it's an interesting opening. And like it, and it also it's interesting that it's dealing with something that's been part of Star Trek from the beginning, this idea of the Romulan Empire and the neutral zone, and will there ever be any kind of peace between them and stuff like that. Um, Shinzon, what do you think about Shinzon? Or
It is,
antagonist?
well, first off, it's Tom Hardy,
It is.
who in a very like maybe his first major role, and
He looks very young.
he's I think he's like 22 in it or something. Like he's very young,
Yeah.
and he is hamming it up. He is having the time of his life, and all you just mentioned the Remans and the whole situation. Like Shinzon talks about how he was a Reman, he used to be in the caves, and in retrospect, it kind of is almost an exact mirror of him
Yes.
as Bane.
Yes. Exactly. It's exactly like Bane. Um, see, you said like he's going wild and having fun. I actually think, and I like him as an actor, and I do think he's wild. I like him in a lot of his later stuff. I actually think he's obviously going for something, and I don't think he's bad, but I don't see that fearless Tom Hardy that we see now. I see
No,
some.
he's trying to be very theatric.
Yeah, and supposedly, and the thing that is revealed about this character is he is a clone of Jean-Luc Picard. Um, and supposedly originally they wanted Patrick Stewart to play both roles, which sometimes it could be interesting. It could have been corny, whatever. But I feel like the movie still. The problem is he doesn't look enough like Patrick Stewart. And we're told like, oh, this was what Patrick Stewart looks like young. Like at one point, Patrick Stewart has a picture of him when he's first going into the academy, and it's Tom Hardy. And it's like, okay, you know that, but I don't know that. I'm the audience member. Like when he's first introduced, he's in all darkness. And
Yeah.
he's just being super weird. He's being weirdly sexual towards Troy, and he's like, "Can I touch her hair?" And it's like, okay, this is really weird. And then he's like, "Raise the lights." And the lights come on and we see him and he's just like a bald guy. And but the way that the movie depicts it and the way that Patrick Stewart plays it is like, whoa, huge reveal. And I didn't know. I didn't get it because he doesn't look like Patrick Stewart. Like
Right.
the you have and he does like drive it home like really, really. He's like, we should hang out later, the two of us, or maybe I should say the one of us. He like makes a lot of very obvious, I'm your clone. By the way, in case you didn't catch what's going on here, I'm your clone. But it's not obvious. Like the way that the movie, like the light turns on and there's a close up of him, and it's like bum bum boom, and it's like, what is? He's just another bald guy. What are we?
Right.
What
Right. Does
is
he
it?
have any specific skills or knowledge that,
Right,
make him comparable to Picard, that they
right,
have to
right.
have like a tete-a-tete or something? Like,
Right, and they do keep making the point in the movie of like, oh, we're the same, they have the same DNA. He says like, if you had lived my life with the violence, you would have turned out just like me. But there's nothing in the performance that seems to echo Patrick Stewart. You never like, other than the fact he's bald, you never feel like, oh, he's a clone of him. You know what I mean?
yeah.
He doesn't sound like him. He doesn't talk like him. He doesn't seem to move like him. Maybe it would have
Again,
been,
interesting idea, but like just didn't they didn't take it far enough, or like something needed to be re-edited.
yeah, maybe it would have been better with Patrick Stewart playing him because
Maybe.
it doesn't work, and then a lot of it has to be told to us. Like we have to be told, oh, this is his clone, and the whole again, a lot of stuff that I feel like should be important in the story gets like lost over very quickly. Like, because it's like, well, how is this guy a clone of him? And he's like, oh, well, the Romulans made me. They got your DNA somehow, and they made me because they were gonna grow me, and then they were gonna kill you and replace me with you. So I was gonna be a Romulan spy inside the Federation. And it's like, whoa, that's a
Yeah,
big
that's pretty
plot.
big.
And then Picard's like, what happened? And he's like, regimes changed, and they just didn't care about me anymore, and they were worried
You know
about.
what? I've never had this thought until now, but now that I'm thinking back on it, like that actually maybe would have been a real good movie. Like if they had gone with the Patrick Stewart playing both characters, and
Yes.
it's like, hey, this Patrick Stewart is evil and he's going to infiltrate the Federation, and now evil Patrick Stewart's like commanding the Enterprise. It's like, what's going to happen?
Yeah, it's this very specific backstory to set up this thing that doesn't make sense because it's like of in all the places in the galaxy where he could find a clone of himself. You know what I mean? Like why? Like it could have had something to do with the Borg, right? Because he had been assimilated
Right.
into the Borg. Like the just this weird offshoot of Romulus, this weird planet Remus has this clone of him. It just seems so random. And it's also like weirdly, I think, I don't know where the right way to put it. It's kind of racist because he considers himself a Remus because when they decided they didn't want him anymore, they wanted to hide him. So they were like, oh, let's go put him on the mines and he'll die and then no one will know that we did this clone. And he gets taken in by the Remans, or the League of Shadows.
I was
And
just going to say, like, I lived in the dark.
yeah. Oh, you you adopted the
Oh,
Federation.
the
I
shadows
was
betray
born in
you
it.
because they belong to me.
Yeah. And then he's like adopted by them, but then he becomes their leader. And
Yeah.
like he's this white guy, and then he considers himself them. He calls himself the Remus,
But
but
all the
they're
other Remans are like goblin people.
yeah. Yeah, like this the his second in command is his viceroy, who's played by um
Ron Perlman,
Ron Perlman, which he
which is crazy to me because like maybe this was just like right before Hellboy, but like I don't know, even at the time I was like, wow, Ron Perlman, like
I didn't know it was
I thought he
him.
would have a bigger role.
I didn't know it was him. Like the makeup is so thick. Like you usually be like, oh, that's Ron Perlman.
Yeah,
But the makeup is so thick, I didn't know it was him until I looked it up. But this guy who is his viceroy, his right-hand man, is the person who supposedly adopted him as a child. So how do you go from like you took in this kid to now he's your leader?
right.
And like he gets to be the white
I
face of your
I
whole operation. It's
I
weird.
guess I just always assumed it was because hey, we cloned Picard, and this guy's got all the gifts that Picard has for leadership. But now we don't need them, so we're going to throw those gifts down into the well. And because Shinzon still has that, the Picard genes or
Uh-huh.
the whatever inside him that like now he's using those leadership skills to raise an army
Mm,
instead of like protecting the
okay.
Federation.
Okay. That makes a little more sense. I think another way to go about it to make the story work better would be to introduce him almost like Spock's brother, introduce him as a good guy and then have the turn. Because he's sort of mustache twirly evil from the second we meet him. And then when he sort of tells his backstory to Picard, Picard sort of
He's
wants
almost
to,
sympathetic.
yeah, he wants to sympathize with him. But clearly he's up to fucking no good.
Again, it's the editing. Like if you flipped those scenes, it would have made a lot more sense.
Right,
Where
right.
like
Because
the scene where they're having dinner on
yeah,
Shinzon's ship, and he's like sympathetic to him.
right. And he's like, tell me about the Picards. Have we always been explorers? Like I want to know our family's history. And it's like, right. If you had started with that, it would be better. And another thing that sort of is very weird, and I think it's to me, it's not set up or paid off very well, is what's with his obsession with Troy, and what's with his like sexual assault of her. And how does that work? And why does he do it? It seems it has nothing to do with the rest of his plans. His
The
plans
in
are
universe the in universe answer I think is just to fuck with Picard to be and his crew to be like, oh, I could take any of your people and like mind fuck them at any time. And here's what I'm gonna do to like here's a taste of what I can do
I don't
if you
know if
don't do what
I
I say. But
but it's
the
so
out of universe
sexual. Yeah.
yes, well the out of universe reason I think is because whoever fucking wrote this just wanted a sexual assault scene to like artificially raise the stakes.
Right. It begins as like a sex scene, which again is uncomfortable. And if if IMDb is to be trusted, supposedly um uh what's his name who plays Riker?
Jonathan Frakes.
Jonathan Frakes would not shave his back, so they used CGI to remove the hair on his back, which is incredible. They said, "Will you shave your back?" And he went, "No, no way,
No, not a
no,
chance.
not a chance." And so it's so at first you're like, "Oh, is we really just doing a love scene in Star Trek?" But then he turns into, in her mind, I guess he turns into Tom Hardy's character. But Tom Hardy had already crept, like when he first met her, he's like, "Oh, you're beautiful. You're the first female human I've ever met." So that kind of makes sense. Like he's enamored with this woman. He's never seen a woman before.
Mm,
I feel like that's something you've seen in Star Trek before.
yeah.
But he's got this very intricate plan, and it's like, how does it? I don't see how this becomes a part of the plan. Like he's got this political thing he's going on. Like he's using the Romulans. He's acting like he's like brokering peace with them, but really, or like he can help them gain more power if they just let him off his leash. But really, he's
Really, he's doing a hostile takeover.
right, and he wants to destroy Earth, which would be good for the Romulans that are less peace-like because they could that would weaken the Federation and they can
Mm,
take more control over the galaxy. Um, and the other thing he wants to do is and this is also not very clear. He needs because he's a clone. He was built like Jango Fett, like Boba Fett, to age up really quickly, but he got stopped at some certain age for some reason, and now he's like dying. It's similar to the villain in the last movie. He's like sick and dying.
yeah, and he needs
And
Picard's blood.
right, but did he get it when he has Picard captured? Did he get it at that point, or does he not get it?
No, he didn't get it.
Then what's the procedure they're doing? Because the viceroy keeps saying like, "Oh, let's do your procedure."
You got me on that one.
If he
That's
needs his blood, why wouldn't he take it when he has him captured? Again, it feels like there's scenes missing here. There's puzzle pieces missing.
I don't think it was a I think because he was like, oh, we could do the thing with the blood, or there's like another procedure
Oh,
that he could be
okay.
doing. That's what I remember.
It's
And he was
it,
like, no, we're gonna do it this way. Like I need Picard's blood.
it's got like dream logic because you have to connect dots between every beat. It doesn't connect on its own. You've got to in your head make it work because
Yeah.
it just feels like shit's missing. And like I said, the Troy and also okay, so then Troy, he's like it's like creepy. It's like too much. Like he's like kissing her and she's like very, very scared by it. And then you see on his ship, which is I like his ship. It's cool. It's called the Scimitar. It's like a very cool looking ship. It actually reminds me of the ship from the next movie, the Romulan ship.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought up the ship because this is where I think if you give this movie a lot of slack is where like a lot of the general entertainment value comes in because the last half of this movie, I think they actually do a pretty good job of being like we're going to go all in on a space fight.
Uh-huh.
And that's where the CGI looking good helps a lot.
Yeah.
I think the space battles look great
Yeah. It does.
and
No, it looks good. Yeah.
I think there is a lot of good like back and forth between the two ships
Yeah, and
and
I
their
like the
crews.
production design. The if you look at the poster's all green, and the villain is sort of coated with like green, like the radiation that he uses to kill the Romulans in the beginning is
Mhm.
green, and his ship is green. Like he's sort of like coated green, but like in almost like in a sort of extra textural way, like almost like a
Mm.
non-diegetic way. Like he's just coated that way, and it's
Yeah.
interesting visually. But what I want to say was we cut to him on his ship when the thing with Troy's happening, and he's kneeling, and the Reman, played by Ron Perlman, has his hands on Tom Hardy's head. So it seems like he's the one powering this psychic invasion,
Yeah.
but it's like how, like we've seen mind melding before. How how is he getting into her mind, but his friend is the one making it happen? But then also he turns into a Riemann. Like he looks like he has like a Riemann face at one point in her mind. And then she's like she tells it she's like real fucked up, but she's like, Captain, I wanna leave permission to you know uh
Yeah.
take leave or whatever. And
And
he's like,
Picard's just like,
no,
nope, nope.
no, you cannot. Also, I feel like it's a little bit like fridging because we begin this movie with Riker and her getting married, and then we have the first scene with Shinzon where he's being a creep and he's like, "Oh, I've never seen a woman before. May I touch your hair?" And Riker is sort of like on guard, like this guy's like creeping on my wife. And part of me feels like a lot of this is just to be like it's for Riker's sake,
Yeah.
which is
Well,
not great.
I'm glad you mentioned that because, and this is one of the issues people have with a lot of the movies, but in this one especially, there's nothing for some of these people to do.
Yes. This movie actually had more for Troy, Riker, and Crusher to do. This is actually Crusher's best movie because she had nothing to do in those other movies except like
Yeah,
one vague dialogue scene. The person who gets really fucked in this movie is Worf.
yeah. Worf is just like they're like, oh, we need you here, but
Well,
not
yeah,
really.
you and I have been talking about how the character Worf goes on to Deep Space Nine. So they to have him be in these movies, they have to have reasons for why he's there. And each movie has a more vague reason. In this movie, they don't even say the reason. He's just there, I guess, because it's the wedding.
Yeah, that's my assumption, but they never say it. They're never like it's just like they're almost expecting you to have not seen Deep Space Nine in a weird
Right. Or
way.
to give a shit. Right, right,
It's like, oh yeah, Worf was in the Next Generation. Of course, he's in the movie,
right. And supposedly he was unhappy on the set because he felt like he had nothing to do.
and
And
they
this
made his. I don't know if you got this trivia on IMDb, but
uh
apparently in this movie they like artificially lowered his voice a little bit
really?
to like make him sound a little deep. Which like why?
That's such a weird choice. See, that's
It's
a
like
new director who's not fucking on board with all this shit.
right. I guess he was like, oh, we got to make the Klingon guy, the dog face guy, sound like scarier or deeper.
So weird. But which is crazy because this movie does if it continues the trend that the last movie did, which was just use Worf as a comic for comic relief. Like
Yeah.
in the last movie, that's the movie where they go to a planet with like makes them young again. So like he has nothing to do in that movie except like he grows like a pimple and he's going through puberty and like haha, that's all there is for him to do. In this movie, he's like drunk at the wedding and that's fun. And then like
Yeah.
they're going well, that's the wedding reception, but then they're gonna do the wedding on some planet where they have to be naked
Oh, and he doesn't want to get
and
naked.
he doesn't want to get naked. So it's like it's he's just a buffoon. Like he's there's nothing menacing or cool about the character. Like in this movie and the last movie, there's no reason for him to there's no reason for him to be there because they don't even use him.
No, and again, it's extra infuriating if you're a fan of Deep Space Nine, because by this point that series had just ended like a year and a half prior.
Uh-huh.
And by the time that show ended, Worf is like the Chancellor Martok's like right hand man on, and is like has like a very prominent, like the second most prominent position on the Klingon homeworld. So
And
he's like big time, and he's like a big war hero
well,
because of the
now he's a
Dominion
joke.
Wars. Yeah, so now he's just back with the Enterprise.
Right. And you were talking to me last time we talked with the last movie about the Dominion Wars and how that's a big part of Deep Space Nine and how they kind of like don't really get into it. This movie, like the last movie, has vague reference to it. They were like, "Oh yeah, they used Reman in the Dominion Wars."
Yeah, it's like great. What were those?
Right, right. We weren't involved.
Yeah, we weren't invited. Would
Did
be
you
cool.
have you ever read that originally they wanted Seven of Nine to be in this movie?
Yes, and they were going to get rid of Troy because she was asking for more money. And Jerry Ryan was like, "I have nothing to do with this movie. Why would I? Why would I be in
Right, because she was a popular character from Deep Space Nine, right? Or
it?"
Voyager.
She was on Voyager, which there is a Voyager cameo in this movie.
There
You
is.
get a Captain Janeway telling Picard he's got to go investigate the Romulan station.
Yeah, she's a higher rank than him. She's an admiral.
Yeah, because by that point Voyager had wrapped up and she had made it back to Earth
Right. There's a
as an
couple of
admiral.
cameos. You've got you have what do you call it? You have Will Crusher. He doesn't say a word.
Yeah, but he's there.
Supposedly he did have dialogue
Makes
that
no
was cut.
sense that, yeah, but it also doesn't make any sense that he's there given his storyline in Next Gen. But
Why?
whatever, he's there now because in the last season of Next Generation, there was sort of a running plot line of Wesley's character where this like alien being kept like coming back to him and sort of hinting at like you're destined for bigger things, and he basically becomes
Oh, I
what's
said
called a
William before. You're right. It's Wesley Crusher.
Wesley. Yeah, yeah.
Correct.
They're
His real
basically
name is Will Wheaton.
Will Wheaton. Yeah, like he becomes a what's called a traveler, where he's like a super smart, like otherworldly alien being, and he's like
Wow,
being
that's
taught.
crazy.
Yeah, like
They completely
so.
forgot that.
Yeah, so the fact that he like shows up at the wedding just like in a regular ass like Starfleet uniform makes no sense. Also, Whoopi Goldberg is there as Guinan
Yes.
again, getting drunk with Worf.
Yeah, there's a lot of fucking yeah. There's cameos and there's also like at some point they pull some maneuver and they call it like the Kirk maneuver. It feels like it's filled with a lot of shit, a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Like you don't need that Janeway scene at all. All she does is say, "Hey, can you want to go be in the movie? The movie's happening over there. Go be in the movie."
yeah,
And it's
it's
like,
literally
"Okay, I'll go
like
be in
just
the
a
movie."
yeah, it's for no one else but Voyager fans, like just to be like a nice little oh here's two characters that you never thought would be in the same scene.
Yeah. Yeah. Um what do you think of Shinzan's outfit?
It's very holographic.
Hmm.
It's like a
Hmm.
shiny trading card. It's like a shiny black trading card. It's it's definitely going for like villain. It's
Sure.
very villain coded.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. For sure.
I'm fine with it. I think I get what you're getting at though, where like they could have had him in more of like a like if he's really Picard's clone, have him be in like alternate Picard style outfit.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm getting at that. I just don't know. Look, I do think the production design on this movie is really good, but there's just something about it that feels too much. And I know that's crazy to say in a Star Trek movie because you've got alien faces everywhere. Something about it feels like Ming from Flash
Mm,
Gordon.
it
You mean
does.
something about the silhouette of it, like the big shoulders feels like, what are you doing here? And it all fits with this feeling of like, there's in no way does this feel like Picard. I know you keep telling me he's Picard. He's a mirror of Picard, but he doesn't look, act, smell, sound like Picard, and you're doing nothing to bridge that gap.
No, they're not. They're absolutely not. There's like he's a villain.
I like the way the Enterprise looks in this movie. Very cool looking Enterprise.
Yeah, yeah, I do like the design of the latter like movie Enterprise.
Yeah, yeah,
It feels like a nice evolution
yeah. It's cool looking.
of the
Yeah.
ship.
You know what else is interesting? The again, it's a Tom Hardy choice. He refers to Picard as Picard. He keeps being like Picard, and it's like, well, we've heard Picard say his own name, and he doesn't say it like that. So, what kind of a clone are you that you say the name funny?
Again, I think it was a director choice where it's like, no, be more villainous. Say it like this.
Picard, right? Yeah, I wonder who did Frakes direct the last movie?
Yes,
Uh, I wonder. Well, that movie didn't do great, right? So maybe they didn't want to hire him
they
back.
told him, yeah, because I know he definitely wanted to direct this one.
It's just weird that they went with this guy who like only directed two other movies. Who like is wasn't doesn't seem too keen on the project. I mean, that's an interesting thing. Like it looks good, but it doesn't story wise. It doesn't work. I don't think.
Does Jordy have anything to do at all in this movie?
That's a great question.
Especially because and again, this is maybe something that like you would only know if you watch the series, but even still, like he's Data's best friend. And when Data dies,
Oh right.
it just feels like oh, there's no extra emotion from Jordy. Like he doesn't get an arc that builds up to like his best friend dying.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, well, he hasn't had a lot to do in all these movies, right?
They give him enough to do. Again, like First Contact is the best one because they kind of give everyone a little something to do.
Right.
But yeah, I guess like even in the last movie, they give him the scene where his eyes, like they fix his eyes on the planet because of the
Oh, right,
fucking
because he's getting
radiation.
younger, so his eyes, so he's his eyes are healing or whatever. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, in this movie, he just gets like a couple scenes where he's like talking techno babble with Data a little bit,
yeah.
but like that's about it.
Speaking of fan service, at one point Data does the Vulcan neck pinch.
Yes.
A little more fan service for you. Oh, did you see the cameo from noted sex offender Bryan Singer?
No.
Bryan Singer, who directed the X-Men movies, and
Is he a Reman?
no, he's actually just a Federation officer. Like at one point, I think is it Worf? Somebody leaves their console on the bridge, and he just comes into like very quickly just comes in to like relieve him, and it's Bryan Singer.
Okay.
Noted creep Bryan Singer.
Noted. I'm looking this up right now.
Yeah.
Because wasn't there a rumor at one point that like he was gonna direct a Star Trek movie? Oh yeah, that is him. Okay. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Man, he's so happy.
Yeah. I guess he knew
Oh,
Patrick
I don't
Stewart.
like yeah, there's like a glory shot of like them all hanging in the middle chair
No, I don't like that one bit. I don't like that one bit.
and
Um,
Star Trek's got a lot of like weird cameos of people, just like famous people who are like, I'm a fan, can you put me in this?
the weirdest would be Christian Slater
Christian
in
Slater.
whichever one that was, 4 or 5 or whatever.
Wasn't it like the Crown Prince of Sudan was in like an episode of Voyager or
Oh, is
something?
that true? Wow, that's interesting.
I know Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine was in a Voyager.
It's fun if you're famous and you just ask, they'll do it.
Yeah, fucking. I was watching an episode of Voyager the other day that Jason Alexander was in Hot Off of Seinfeld,
Hot.
where he was playing an alien who like tries to manipulate you by getting you to join basically a multi-level marketing think tank scheme.
That sounds like a Lower Decks episode.
It kind of it plays like a Lower Decks episode.
Let me ask you, so we were talking about how they wanted Seven of Nine in this movie, and she was like, why would I do that? She's in Picard season 3, isn't she?
Yeah, but because she was in Picard season 1 and 2, so they did find a way to bring her in. But
So they
it
okay.
wasn't like they made her join the cast of the Enterprise. Like this was like they wanted her to basically replace Troy and Nemesis. When she
Okay.
shows up in Picard, it's way more natural. It's more just like part of the Federation, and she's back on Earth, and she's getting in with
Okay.
Picard and his gang. Like so, and she ended up becoming kind of like a fan favorite character because
Right.
remember in Picard season 3, they jettisoned most of the fucking new crew from seasons 1 and 2, but they kept her.
Right. It just becomes like they redo this. They redo next gen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh so we've talked before about in these next gen movies, their desire to put more action in, um, which has better and worse results depending on the movie. This one, I think the end has good action, but the beginning, they do this thing where they have to go to this planet to find the other data.
Oh, and
Um,
they're like, should we take a ship or something? And they find like, no, the atmosphere is some bullshit where we can't take the dune buggy.
Right. And then it's basically just they're just off-roading and driving real fast. And then they're completely breaking the Prime Directive. Um and the people who live on the planet start chasing them really for no reason. And then they also have dune buggies. And then with just a chase, really that adds up to nothing. There's no point in this chase. All you need narratively from this scene is to get the other android.
Right.
Which, by the way, we haven't talked about that weird part of the plan, which is they in the beginning they get this I guess they sense radiation from this planet, and it is the kind of radiation that like an android would have. And they're like,
Right.
oh, so then they go down and there's like parts of the android all over different parts, like just scattered around the planet. And then later on, you find out that Tom Hardy's character planted it there because he knew that Data would want to find it, and he wanted someone to be on the inside to hack the Federation. It's just like the amount of weird moving parts in Tom Hardy's plan is just like, what? Why did this have to be this way at all?
Yeah, it doesn't really make much sense. It doesn't.
No. Um, but at the end, there's I think a cool scene where they're on Tom Hardy's ship, and they Data and Picard are in a shuttle, and they can't like get out through whatever, so they go through the ship. They actually like fly a ship in a ship.
Yeah.
And I thought that was cool. Um,
That was cool. I think them ramming the Enterprise
yes.
into the scimitar was a really good scene.
Yeah, that's something I can't think of seeing before. Like they don't have any more weapons, so they're like, "Fuck it, let's just hit our ship into his ship." That was cool. I also like that their view screen is like destroyed and like becomes a hole, and like
Mhm.
a crew member sucked out into it. Yeah, so there were some different interesting things, and I do like them flying the shuttle inside the ship. That was cool. Um. But that opening fucking looks like a Jeep commercial.
Yeah, it's all like orange saturated and
Yeah, it's that the early 2000s was when they started doing CGI like digital color timing. So you had like they would really went too far with it. So like they it basically just looks like a desert, but they've made it super yellow.
yeah,
And we've got a chase scene really for no reason.
pretty much. Pretty
Um,
much.
so how would you rank the next gen movies? And you could count Generations in this.
Yeah. I would say First Contact number one, without a doubt.
Mm.
Usually I would put Nemesis right below. But in rewatching Generations, I kind of like what generation I like
Hmm.
there's a good movie around floating around in Generation. I don't know, like part of me wants to like give it a tie for a second and third
Hmm.
because I do like both of I feel they're wildly different movies, but I feel the same about both of them
Hmm.
where there's like good ideas and good scenes rattling around in
Right.
both Generations and Nemesis. But gun to my head, I would probably give the nod to Nemesis
Interesting.
just because I think it looks better.
Uh-huh.
It's more of what you would want from like a full on like Star Trek movie, whereas Generation still sort of has the look of the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think just like the good stuff in Nemesis outweighs the bad. Like if I had to rank it, if this was Siskel and Ebert, I would it would be one of the like I'm giving it a mild thumbs up.
Yeah, I think I would do the obviously First Contact is the best. I think I would put Generations at two, and then Nemesis, and then at the very bottom, Insurrection.
Yeah, Insurrection undoubtedly is the best,
Because you don't like yes, Generations is not a great movie, but
but it feels like a movie.
you do have Captain Kirk in it, and that's cool. And you do have how it wraps up that era. But yeah, it is a mixed bag for sure. what do you think works the best? You seem to like Nemesis more than me. What do you think like works about this movie?
I think again, I think the effects hold up really well, and I think they were smart to lean into that near the end of the movie, where the last like 45 minutes to an hour is kind of nothing but it's sort of like, okay, we've set up the plot. Whatever you think about the plot is whatever you think about it. But like now we're gonna get into all the stuff with Picard and Data on the scimitar,
Mhm.
and they get in the ship and they leave, and they bust out, and then like the Romulans come in and help, and they're fighting the scimitar with the Enterprise, but like that's not enough, so they have to crash the ship into the scimitar, and then Picard has to go back over there, and there's some action going on
Mhm.
with that. So it's like it does deliver on having like movie scale action,
Yeah.
and it doesn't skimp on it when the action starts. Um,
Okay.
and I think that gives it a leg up over Generation. But you're right, the plot stuff is it's very clunky. Like
It's murky. Yeah.
there's no denying. Like, but again, like it's the ideas there are good enough where like you
Mhm.
said, if you can dream logic it and just sort of like fill in some of the gaps yourself, it's like, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like the action at the end, but I one thing that happens at the end of this movie that also happened at the end of Insurrection, which is a lot of ship hopping. We're all on this ship, then we're back on this ship. Oh no, we're going back to the other ship. And sometimes that gets a little bit um
Yeah, I could see that.
confusing. Um Talking about things I did like Data jumping through space. Like he to
Yes.
save Picard, they've the ship has been damaged, so like there's just an open fucking like it's open into space. So he goes with Geordi, and Geordi like opens up the force field, and Data like gets a running start and like jumps into the other ship, and I thought that
Mhm.
was very cool.
Yeah. I think the opening scene on Romulus, like you said, is really good.
Yeah, it is.
It sets everything up pretty good.
It's without a doubt Insurrection's the worst. Um, it just looks bad. The story's bad. It's boring at times. It's just everything about it stinks.
Yeah.
I agree with you though that if this had been in place of Insurrection, it probably would have done better.
Yeah.
And maybe the series would have gone on longer without it being rebooted. Maybe they would have been more. In canon, do they ever mention this character ever? Do they ever mention Picard's clone ever again?
Uh, I think they mentioned him in Picard a couple of times because they definitely Romulus definitely plays a bigger part in the Picard series, especially season one,
Uh-huh.
but not necessarily because of this movie though. The whole stuff uh with Shinzon is mentioned because it's a huge part of the Romulan lore after this point that he did this huge coup. But
Okay.
more so to do with the next movie, which we all think of as a reboot, the first J.J. Abrams Star Trek, and it is. But one of the things I appreciate about the J.J. Abrams Star Trek reboot is that it's sort of launched what we now call like soft reboots, where
Right.
it's like
It's
we're
a
gonna
different
reboot it,
timeline.
right? But it's like we're still gonna have some connective tissue to sort of ease the old
Yeah.
heads, as they say, into the new
Right.
product.
And it doesn't erase everything that happened before, right? Like a
Right,
reboot normally would. Like this is a different timeline version of Kirk and Spock and all.
right. But specifically, what that Star Trek movie did is, if you remember at the beginning, they
Destroy
Nero, whatever his
Romulus.
name is, destroyed Romulus in
Yeah.
the next gen universe. And in Picard season one, the main plot line revolves around Picard having sort of gone rogue to save a lot of people on Romulus when it was attacked and was about to explode. Because apparently, like the Federation told him, like, no, we're not, we're letting it explode because we're letting the Romulans die. And he was just like, no, we can't do that. Like,
Hmm.
I'm sending people in to save them.
Interesting. Interesting. I wonder where they're going because they did three of the J.J. Abram ones, and then they've for years they've been saying that they were going to do four, and it's been on, it's been off, and I don't know where that is now. But you have still have a lot of Star Trek. You've got um Strange New Worlds on. Picard is over, right?
Yes,
Is
but now you've got the new. They just started filming. I think this past month the Starfleet Academy show.
Is that live action?
Yes,
Okay.
that's going to
Is
be
Discovery
in.
over?
Yes, Discovery is now over,
Okay.
but the Starfleet Academy show is going to take place in at the end of that Discovery timeline. So I think what they're doing, which is smart, is sort of resetting the deck a little bit and being like, okay, we've got a wide open field. We could do anything.
Because it's far flung into the future, right? It's as
And we're
far.
at the
Yeah.
end of the timeline. So like we could start fresh. We could have a whole like I think they're hoping that this Starfleet show is like the kickoff because I think they realized that um Discovery was kind of a mixed bag. It was their first attempt at a new series. Didn't fans didn't really take to it the same way they would take to something like Strange New Worlds.
I love
Um,
Strange New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds is great, and I think this is their big play to kind of be like, okay, we've kind of done our internal research. We know what you guys like now. We know what you're angling for. So like this is gonna be sort of we're starting fresh. We have characters here that we're starting out in Starfleet Academy that if it goes well, like hey, these characters could get their own ships in the future. We could jump ahead. We could
Right.
have it span off into a whole new series of shows.
Right. It's a much better move than if you had been like, let's do a prequel where it's like Kirk at the Academy or whatever the fuck.
Right, because that was like in the cards for a little bit, where they're like, "Oh, the this Starfleet Academy show is going to be a prequel," and then they announced, "No, it's gonna be like at the end of the timeline, so everything can start fresh."
That's better. That's much
Yeah,
better. Okay. So there's, and I think Lower Decks just ended too. And I like Lower Decks.
yeah. Lower Decks has one more season, I think.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
they've announced that that is ending.
Okay. So there's I don't know when they're doing another movie, but we'll come back and we'll do episodes on the J.J. Abrams produced films because I like those a lot.
Yeah, I like them too. I think critical. I did not like at the time that some people were like so against them, where it's like, oh, this is they're trying to make this not your daddy Star Trek. It's like, so don't watch them.
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
Like they did everything they possibly. My whole thing is if they even if you want to be a real stickler about it, it wasn't like they were saying, "Hey, we're rebooting the whole thing," and these are like our new Kirk and Spock and all these people. They actually took the time, like I was just saying, to build the connective tissue to be like, "Hey, we still love the stuff that you love,
Right.
but this is an alternate timeline." And I thought it was very cool how they brought like Spock Prime in and like just they took a lot of care of it that they didn't need to take.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. Vin, thank you so much for being here. Today was Star Trek Nemesis. We continue on as we always do. We come out every single Wednesday, from the dawn of time to the end of time. Vin, thank you so much for being here. We end every episode by saying
Go bye bye.